All right, so we are going to walk through with a little pun intended. Y'all understand when I pulled up this teaching, and really want us to look at it beyond the surface. But I want to take something that is regularly talked about and try to really understand it. Because that's one thing that we can definitely say, right? You come into the walk of the truth, and what we tend to figure out is that there has been a whole lot of stuff talked about, but not a whole lot of understanding. That there's been a whole lot of talking, but Lucy ain't explained nothing yet. Lucy still got some explaining to do, huh? And so this is something, again, it's not super deep, but when you consider the ramifications of it, the understanding of it for what it truly is, it is the power to everything. It's the power to everything. So, what am I speaking of? Well, we're going to talk today walking by faith. Walking by faith. Action over fashion. Action over fashion. So, first question. This question will be with us. What is faith? Well, the first place I want to start is what it is not. Okay? We're going to start with what it is not. It is not telekinesis. By faith, if you see it, you can have it. If you believe it, you'll receive it. You can achieve it. Just believe it. I'm not saying that these things are not true, but there's more to it. There is absolutely more to it. It's more to it than just brain power. It's more to it than just thinking and believing that something is, and so it is. Now, help me understand, y'all. Talk back to me. Help me understand why this particular concept of creating something from absolutely nothing is probably not the case for us. Help me understand, help me understand where the disconnect is with that. Why is it that we can't just think it and it happens? Because we're not Yahweh. That's all I needed to hear. Because somebody's going to say, Yahweh stepped in the middle of nothing and created everything. He sure did, but you ain't him. Everything we make uses something. Everything we create uses something. I don't care what it is. Anybody ever seen a 3D printer? Does it print from thin air? They got to put material in the printer to print out. Now, it's kind of crazy that you put a whole bunch of plastic in and then it starts printing like a whole car or something crazy like that. But everything that we create, there's an input. In order to be an output, there's got to be an input. So faith is not just believe it and receive it. Faith is not just you can achieve anything and just think hard enough and so as man thinks so he shall be. There's more to it. Again, I'm not saying that those things are not true. I just want y'all to believe that there's more to it. So let's further investigate this question. So what is faith? What is faith? We talked about what it is not. We're going to talk about what it is, and we're going to use Hebrews chapter 11 to be our working definition. And we're going to go through it and through the examples that were given to help define it and then help understand it. All right. All right. So if we look at Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1 through 9, and I'm going to read it from King James. And we're going to go into each kind of part by part. And so it reads, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it," the it is faith, "the elders obtained a good report." The elders, who are the elders? That's question number one. Who are the elders? The elders obtained a good report. What is this good report? Because by this faith, those people, whoever they are, obtained a good report, whatever that is. So let's keep reading, and it'll kind of uncover itself. "Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by" what? "The word of Elohim, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear." Which means the things that can't be seen were created by the things that cannot be seen, which goes back to when he said it's the word of Elohim. We're in verse 4 now. "By faith, Abel offered unto Elohim a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, Elohim testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh." All right, so now we see this is probably one of the elders, right? So we got that part cleared up. Abel is one of the elders. When was Abel? Where is he from? Who is he? That's the son of Adam, right? Which son of Adam? He had several, but he had two at the beginning, right? He had two at the beginning, and he had Cain, and then he had Abel. And so this goes all the way back. Wait a minute. So this means that faith is not just a New Testament concept. Okay. Because Abel had what? He had faith. Okay. All right. Also, maybe it says the elder, remember the elders obtained a good report. That was in chapter verse 2. So here's a good report. What was the good report? It says that by which he obtained witness that he was righteous. So he obtained a witness that he was righteous. Elohim testifying of his gifts. And by it, by that faith, he being dead yet speaketh. Verse 5, by faith, here's another elder coming up. Enoch was translated that he should not see death and was not found. Why? Because Elohim had translated him, for before his translation, what did he do? He obtained a good report. What was his good report? He had this testimony that he pleased Elohim. All right. He pleased Elohim. Verse 6. Verse 6. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Elohim must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that what? Diligently seek him. So maybe this is what Enoch was doing. Enoch was diligently seeking him, and in this pleasing to Elohim. This is how he pleased Elohim. All right, let's move on. Verse 7. By faith Noah, here's another elder. By faith Noah, being warned of Elohim of things not seen. What was not seen? What was the thing that Noah was warned of that was not seen? Flood and rain upon the earth so much that it floods the entire earth. That had never been seen. Had never been seen. And so for him to say, oh yeah, it's going to rain and keep raining so much that it's going to flood everything. And everything on land will die. That had not been seen. But it says here that he was moved with what? Fear. He was moved with fear. So, as a result, what did he do? Prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by what? Faith. Verse 8. By faith, Abraham, another elder. We have another elder. When he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, he obeyed and he went out, not knowing whither he went. He didn't know where he was going. Oh, he just said go. But by faith he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. So again, we have these patriarchs, or these elders, who represent for us. They represent for us this definition. They did things that provided to them a good report. And so let's think about what just took place. First, let's look at the definition. You look at it in the Greek, the word is pistis. Pistis. And it's G4102. G4102. And it means persuasion, that is credence or moral conviction. Also assurance or belief, or to believe, or to have faith or fidelity. So this looks like this definition goes beyond just brain power. Think it, it happens, right? Think it and it happens. This definition goes a little bit further than that, because there's some persuasion there. There is a conviction. There is assurance. There is belief. So now let's think about this. Let's think about this. If the substance in the evidence is what we have been told is the definition of the faith, I think that we have been confusing something within that. We've been confusing that with that thing will manifest itself. Because I have faith, that thing will manifest itself. I believe that this is going to happen. So that thing will manifest itself. So now there's substance and there's evidence, even though it can't be seen. My belief is what brings it to light. But here's the place where I think we have to be careful. Not understanding that the substance and evidence is in you. That's where the substance and the evidence is. It's in you. You show your faith or your belief or your trust, and that is the substance. Or you show your belief, your faith, your trust, and that is what makes it tangible. What do I mean by that? If I tell you I believe that chair will hold my weight, but I'm unwilling to sit in it, do I really believe it? So you can't believe me even though I'm saying that because I've not shown you no substance or evidence. Am I making sense? I'm not showing you no substance or evidence. But where does the substance and evidence come from? Me. That's where it comes from. And so I can't tell you that I believe you. I trust you. I know that you're, but I'm not willing to obey. I'm not willing to prove it. All right, so let's go to the next. Let's look at faith from the that was from the Brit Hadashah, or renewed covenant. There's something that you should also know, which is that the word faith is not in the Old Testament very often. Like less than 5 times. So now the question is, and when you go to the New Testament, it's in their hundreds. So to me, that says, concept. There's a concept that I need to understand, and there's just something else that's being used. Because do we know anybody that had what we understand as faith in the Old Testament? Well, he gave the example that we're using in our working definition comes from Hebrews 11. What and who does Hebrews 11 reference? Abraham. Who else? Abel. Who else? Enoch. Who else? Noah. Was any of them in the New Testament? So the example of faith is being given to us through this working definition by turning back to the Torah. So let's go back to the Torah. So this is the word that you'll actually see. This is the word that you'll actually see. And I apologize because I couldn't get it all on one screen. So I'm going to just kind of blow it up in different areas. So the word is aman. Aman. Can y'all say that? Aman. Aman. So it has 3 letters. See, it's already coming in. What's the first letter, y'all? Aleph. Y'all see it up there? Perfect. So that Aleph, you always have meanings. You have meanings. So I'm going to give y'all a few seconds, but there are 3 letters. Aleph, Mem, Nun. When I ask, I want y'all to tell me what each letter represents, okay? So you might have to look it up or something, but just tell me what the Aleph represents. There's a pictorial aspect of it. Tell me what it represents. Tell me what the Mem represents. Then tell me what the Nun represents. But let's y'all be working on that, and I'm gonna talk through this definition here. So remember what we read in Greek. It was pistis. And that word was assurance. It was trust, faith, fidelity. It was moral obligation, I believe, or something along those lines. But that's the kind of synopsis of it. Moral conviction, there you go, conviction. And so we look at Aman. This is in the Hebrew. And the Hebrew, it is H539. H539. And you'll see sometimes it comes up as 539. Sometimes it comes up as 529, 530. But they're all very relative. It's the same base word. And so, but this is the root word. So we're going to use this. And it means to support or confirm. Support or confirm. What are some other definitions? to be carried by a nurse, be made firm, sure, lasting, established, verified, reliable, trusty. Stand firm, believe. Wow. Believe. Here's something that I want you to really pay attention to. What part of speech is this? What does a verb do? Action. It does. A verb does. It's an action word. What does an adjective do? Describes. I feel like we have been using faith like a descriptive word. Like an adjective. I feel like we have been taught that it describes my thought process. But in fact, what is faith? It's a verb. So in order to be firm, in order to be established, reliable, in order for me to let you know that without a doubt, I absolutely believe that chair will hold my weight, what must I do? Sit in it. So now let's back up just a little bit. Have y'all found those pictorial definitions for those letters yet? Has anybody? Okay, so I got a few head nods, so we should have them. I'll come back to it in just 1 second. And so now let's backtrack just a little bit and go back to our working definition, which is in Hebrews 11. And if we now put it into this verb type of context, let's look at what some of our patriarchs did. So Abel, it says that he had faith. So did he take an action? Was there a verb involved? Or did he just believe Yahweh? What was Abel's verb? That's right. He offered a better sacrifice. What made it better? And this is good when you're talking to people who are studied, because this is why I didn't have to put all of the, this makes the teaching like a 2-hour thing when you got to explain every little thing. What made his sacrifice better? He did it according to the Most High. You want to figure out where that is? You have to go to the book of Joshua. You have to look at then what it is that he was supposed to offer. His brother offered of the inferior of his crop, while Abel offered of the fat, of the greatness, of the best. He didn't try to hold back the good stuff for himself. Right? And so this, in his obedience to offer the Most High the best that he had, that was his action. What was, let's see, who comes after Abel? What was Enoch's? What was Enoch's action? If this is all verbs, what was Enoch's action? And you can go to Hebrews 11 and follow along here to see this. He was translated for what? Because he pleased Elohim. He pleased Elohim. He pleased Elohim. And then if you go and look at in what way he pleased him, now we don't get a whole lot. Again, in the scriptures, go to the book of Joshua and go to the book of Enoch, and you will understand better. It was his obedience to the Most High. It was his obedience. He became the scribe of heaven based on simply obeying. Just do what he said do. And that was the action. And he was pleasing. All right. So let's go to the next patriarch. What did Noah do? What was his verb? He built an ark. People was looking at this dude like he was crazy. Again, we go to the book of Joshua and you will understand that it was 120 years But 100 or more years of that time, y'all, I think it was like 105 years or 110 years. It kind of slips my mind. But over 100 years, Noah had no idea that Yahweh was going to tell him to build an ark. All he knew was, go tell these people to get their stuff together. And that's what he did. He didn't even want to have kids. He didn't even want to have kids. Because he said, what's the point of me having kids? Yahweh is going to destroy this whole earth, and y'all ain't doing nothing any different. You still evil and wicked. So Noah was what? Righteous. Walking upright before the Most High. All right. What's the last one? Abraham. What was Abraham's verb? He left. He just went. He left. Did Yahweh tell him where he was going? No. Could Abraham, and if you read again, this is again a clarification you get in the book of Joshua. Abraham spent about 5 years saying goodbye. So he didn't want to leave. He did not want to leave. But when Yahweh said, now's the time, he got his hope, he got his coat, his hat, and he left. And anybody that believed in him, they left with him. And so now let's go back. Let's go back to this word. Let's go back to this word, Aman. We're at Aman. Let's go back there. 3 letters. What are those 3 letters? Aleph, Mem, and Nun. Aleph, Mem, Nun. Somebody tell me, what is Aleph? The ox, the head, the strength. That's right. The master of the house. What is the Mem? Water, chaos. Water, chaos, flood, destruction. Blood. Noon. Seed. So, what do we have? That's what faith means, right? So let's put those together. Somebody put those together. You have the head that leads into the chaos. That chaos is in the middle. And what's on the other side? Seed pointing toward reproduction. There's something that comes. There's life that comes from this. So if we really looked at this word, Aman, faith, belief, faith, belief. It's not just brain power. It's not just thinking that something will happen. But it's when, because there's a difference, you know, there's 2 sounds that have that A sort of sound for us. There's Aleph and then there's Ayin. Aleph representing the head or the master versus the Ayin representing the eye, where I have to witness, I have to see it. The Aleph is a little different. Because that we can almost always relate to who? The Aleph and Tav. To the master, who is the beginning and the end. And so here you can see that Yahweh himself, if we have faith, then what we have is Yahweh, who has the ability to take the chaos to create the seed, to create that which comes from the seed. Because it doesn't exist, right? But if we just stop at chaos, what do we have? Chaos, destruction. And what did he do? He stepped in the middle of what? Nothingness. It says that his spirit was hovering over the deep and that there was nothingness. He took that nothingness and he organized it. He organized it and created now all that we see. All that we see was created from chaos. But can it just be that you and I just stand and think it into existence? No, that's not what faith does. That's not what faith does. It's not what faith is. So I think if we used a better word, we might come up with a word like belief. We might come up with a word like firm. But just thinking about it ain't it. So now let's look at this. We have those elders as the examples, and we've gone through those. Abel, he offered. Enoch walked with Elohim. Noah built based on the warning. Didn't have to see what it was going to look like. Did Abel need to understand what would happen if he gave an acceptable offering and gave what Yahweh asked? No, he just did it. Did Enoch have to be told, hey, you're going to be the scribe of heaven if you just do what I said do? No, he first obeyed. Did Noah have to know and understand what a world flooding event looked like in order to first warn? Fear, remember that word was in there when it described Enoch. Not Enoch. Noah. Back in Hebrews 11 and verse, let me go to the verse so I give you that. Verse 7. He was moved by fear. In other words, honor, reverence, and respect to do what you said do, fear. And then Abraham left. Can y'all think of any other examples? People who had faith. Other examples of people who had faith. Ruth and Naomi. Ruth, your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. Who else did I hear? You said Esther. Esther, big time. To go in there knowing that her life was on the line. Big time. What else? Give me at least one more. Job. Job had the faith and understanding to know that no matter what comes, I can't go against the Most High. Like, he could do whatever. I can't go against him. What's the common theme with all of these? The common theme with all of these is the same. They did something. They were obedient. They all did something. They all did something. Faith wasn't just brain power. I go back to the substance and the evidence is in us. We show our faith or our belief or our trust when we can exemplify, when we can prove it. All right? Now, here's another question. So we went through these examples. And them having faith in the Most High, having trust in the Most High, they proved it by being obedient, right? Now, did they always understand the end result before they decided to be obedient? No. In these examples, it did not, a requirement and prerequisite was not, oh, Yahweh, you got to show me exactly what's going to be the end result, and then I'll do what you said do. So in other words, keep my Shabbat, honor my Shabbat. Well, I don't really think it's a big deal because I never have until now, and I'm just fine. Isn't that what this is? It's simple obedience. If he says honor my Shabbat, does he have to explain the benefits of honoring his Shabbat in order for you to honor his Shabbat? No. There's not a prerequisite. Obedience. Y'all, most of us are parents. Tell me how many of y'all would sit there and capitulate if your kids said to you, I will gladly do those dishes if you explain to me the benefits that I'll receive as a result. Look at all these laughs. I would gladly clean my room if you can demonstrate for me why that's a good decision for me. Where is the whiffum? Y'all know what the whiffum is? What's in it for me? You would look at them and y'all would probably give that same little laugh y'all done gave, because you would be like, you would not realize what's about to happen to you right now. And meanwhile, while you laughing, either your spouse, any other adults around, they got their popcorn out because they like, ooh, because something about to go down. That don't happen. Why do we think we can approach the Most High like that? He's got to prove to us why we have to be obedient. But then we say, I have faith. What is faith? What is faith? What's the most obvious result of faith? Now that we understand what it means, what's the most obvious result of faith or belief or trust? Obedience. Obedience. If we say we have faith, then the first thing we will do is give the substance and the evidence to that belief, that trust, that faith, by being obedient. They didn't always understand the result. They didn't always understand the outcome. Those elders that are described, the Noahs, the Abrahams, the Abels, they didn't always understand what the end result was. But it was very simple for them. Whatever you say do, I'll do. So if you said keep the Shabbat and the whole country keeps the first day, I'm going to keep the Shabbat. If you said don't eat this and the whole country says it's okay to eat, I'm going to not eat it. Do we really, y'all, I can't tell y'all how many teachings and, we were coming into the understanding and things that we were learning. And it was amazing to me as I was growing to learn some of the information, but it was never the reason I was obedient. And so I'm speaking specifically of something as simple as eating clean. All of the health benefits and this and that, and this is really bad for you, and these things, eat this, and that's why you shouldn't do that, and pigs don't have sweat glands, and they don't release those toxins, and so when you eat it, you take it in, and shellfish clean the ocean, and they're kind of the filters of the ocean, so all of that bad stuff that goes into them, they hold it in and keep it, and that's why you shouldn't eat it. But time out. Does it matter? If the Most High said don't eat it, and it was perfect for your health, should we eat it? No. Is that not exactly what got Adam and Hava? What did it say? She saw that it was good for food. She saw that it was good for food. She was convinced that it was good for food. The convincing is not about whether it's good for food. The convincing should be about whether you should be obedient or disobedient. We don't always understand the fullness of the outcome. So here's my next question. So then, can you have faith, belief, trust without obedience? Can you have faith, belief, trust without obedience? Could Noah say he believed Yah, yet not build the ark? Would Sarah and Abraham have had Isaac if they wouldn't have laid together? Could Sarah, remember she laughed. Remember she had some disbelief in terms of whether this can really happen. What was her question? Could a woman in her old age really be of childbearing? This is not even possible. But what's the evidence? What was her evidence? Her evidence wasn't in her mind or her thought or just saying, oh man, I don't think this can happen. Her evidence was when she said, I guess y'all, I don't know. Well, come on, Abraham. Abraham, you know, y'all, you ever try to start up one of them gas mowers and the thing stutter out and you got to pump the little thing to get the gas to go in, and yeah, that was probably Abraham. He did have other kids after her, actually. So. But the point is, they showed their faith by doing what it took to have a child. They didn't just say, we believe you. People get on Sarah because she gave her handservant to Abraham. But that was the evidence of her belief, not her disbelief. She took an action. That was her verb. It just wasn't the right verb. She needed some correction, and she got it on track. And she figured out, well, I mean, we've been trying this. This ain't been working. Maybe this is what he means. But did she just stop and say, I know it's going to happen and it's going to happen? No, she did. She did. But here's the thing. Think about it from this perspective. It takes something in us. Remember I said, where's the substance and the evidence? It's in us. While it's still in us, all it is potential. What do you get from potential? It needs to become what? There's potential energy and then there's kinetic energy. It needs to be moving. It needs to be doing. There needs to be action. That's why I said action over fashion. It don't just need to look the way. It needs to do the way. We can't look the way. We got to what? Do the way. We got to do the way. Now, if we give nothing to the Most High to work with, He done already spoke all of this stuff into existence. And ever since he created, guess what, y'all? He didn't recreate nothing. He didn't recreate nothing. Even after the flood, he didn't recreate nothing. He just let everything restart back up. That seed. Remember that mem and the noon? That seed. So now, if what we give him is 0, Yahweh's a multiplier. Yahweh's a multiplier. So he takes what you have to get you even more. Now, what's anything times 0 equal? 0. So So if you give him nothing, you will have what? Therein comes belief. I'm going to stand here and just tell y'all I believe, but I'm not going to do anything. If I do zero, that verb, if that energy stays potential, what do I come away with? Nothing. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. And here's why. It's very simple. It's because Yahweh gave us free will, which means we have the choice to not obey, to not believe. Because belief and obedience goes hand in hand. We have the choice not to obey. So if we exercise that choice, 0 times anything else leaves us still at 0. Faith can produce the seen from the unseen. It can, but not without works. What is faith without works? Dead. The power is already within us. According to the power that's already within us, the potential is there, but we got to make it kinetic. We got to make it kinetic. And so, what can faith, belief, trust afford you? What can faith, belief, trust afford you? Well, if we just looked at verse 2, what did it afford the elders? What did it afford the elders? What did faith, belief, trust afford the elders? A good reputation, a good report with who? With Elohim. And that's what we want. We need a good report with the Most High. If we have a good report with the Most High, then he can add all of these other things. Anything else, he can take care of. He can absolutely take care of. And so now, next question is, if in order for me to show my faith or my belief is by my works, which is my obedience to the Most High, whatever he says, that's faith, that's belief. That's what the elders did, and that's what gave them a good report. They believed the Most High, which means they did things to prove their belief. That's their substance and their evidence. So the question is, obedience to what? Because that gets confusing too. Obedience to what? To the Most High. Whatever Yah tells us to do, we do it. Now here's the problem, y'all. Too many people say they hear from the Most High and it's just themselves talking to themselves. Does anybody in here have conversations and thoughts? Does anybody have thoughts? We all have thoughts. Are some of your thoughts your thoughts? Most of my thoughts are my thoughts. And when you get thoughts that you believe come from the Most High, if you like me, you like to slow down and be like, okay, well, wait a minute, was that me? First question. Does anybody else ask that same question? Because I don't want to prescribe to him what is not of him. I don't want to say that he's saying something that he didn't say. So now my next question to myself is, does that align with the Torah? Because when it doesn't, now I've got a question. Oh, now where did that come from? As righteous as Peter was, walking with the Messiah himself, Yeshua looked at him and said, "Get behind me, Satan." Which means Satan was influencing, not he was Satan. Satan was influencing his thoughts. So if Peter, listen to this now, y'all. Let's give this exchange. Peter says, the Lord said ain't nobody going to take you. Master, they take you, they got to take me. The Lord told me to tell you, Yeshua, that nobody ain't going to take you. Because that's the thought that came to his head, right? Was that a righteous thought? Was that an okay thought for him to have? Like, if you was just looking at the surface and you didn't really understand what was going on, and, somebody who's like ace boon coons with another somebody tells other people, you got to go through me to get to him. Was that a bad thing on the surface? No. But look how Yeshua approached him. What did he say? Get behind me, Satan. Because there was something else at hand. There was something else happening. Satan was influencing the thoughts of Peter because Satan figured out that, we can't kill this innocent man. So what we need to do is stop this whole thing from happening. Because all this time that I've been trying to kill him, I ain't really realized that he's trying to die. Innocent. Guiltless. Without sin. He dies innocent, guiltless, without sin. Death just made a mistake. Because death is supposed to be what? Death is supposed to be the cost or payment for sin. He never sinned. There's a mistake about to be made, and when it's made, he will have power. So now he tries to stop him by going through Kepha, Peter. I digress. So we understand that this obedience to what is to the Most High, not to tradition, not to what man says, not to what you've always done, not to grandma, not to grandpa, not to anything other than what the Most High says. Well, one thing we have today is what? To kind of see what the Most High said. We got scriptures in electronic form. We got them in paper form. We got them in phones. We got them in laptops. We got them all over the place. All we got to do is read it. So if he said, don't eat this, okay, don't eat that. If he said, don't do this, okay, well, don't do that. Simple. And it goes back to what the elders, that's our example. What were the elders obedient to? Yahweh, whatever he said, do. You said build an ark, okay. On dry land, okay. You said keep the Shabbat, okay. Why? Why on the seventh day? It matters not. Is there a great reason? Yes, there is. But does it matter? No. It's just that he said do it. It's just that he said do it. So we're going to go back to the basics real quick. Let's go back to the basics. All right. So now this is y'all's quiz time. Quiz time. You've got to match an example with a school subject. I gave you, y'all didn't realize I was giving y'all that, but I gave y'all a language arts example. I gave y'all historical examples. I gave y'all mathematical examples, and I gave you scientific examples. Can somebody give me some of those examples of what belief, faith, trust is? Yep, just pick a category. Pick a category.
Science.
Okay.
Science.
Okay, science.
You said it's not kinesthetic, is that right? Am I saying it right?
It's not telekinesis.
Telekinesis, excuse me. It's not telekinesis. Let me look at my phone.
Yep. See, I be saying that.
Okay. Wait a minute. Okay, so when you say, okay, so I say what it's not. So do I need to say what it is?
No, that's fine. That was one example of a scientific example. That is not telekinesis.
So it's not just in your mind, like you just think it and it.
You just thinking it's like money cometh to me, and money just starts floating in the air and coming to you. I ain't changed nothing, spending habits, ain't got no new job, none of that. Ain't even interviewed, none. None of that's done happen. Rosie, you have one?
Math.
Math, yes.
You said any number times 0 is 0.
Still 0.
So if we don't do anything, we don't give anything ourselves.
That's right. You give 0, Yahweh's gonna multiply your 0, and you still gonna be on E. Now, am I saying Yahweh can't take nothing and create something? Yes, he can, but he gave us the free will to obey or disobey. If we decide we have no faith, which is belief, which is trust, which is evidenced by obedience, action, a verb, we leave him 0, he gonna give you right back 0. What else? There was another good science example. There was another good science example. We got my math. We got one science. There was another good science example I gave.
Was it potential energy?
There you go. Potential energy versus kinetic energy. Potential energy is, yeah, I got faith. I believe. Well, what you gonna do? Because if you don't do nothing, all that potential is nothing. Potential energy is nothing. It needs to become kinetic. You need to do something. You need to do something. Now, hopefully that'll walk y'all right into the language arts example. What's the language arts example?
That faith is a verb.
Faith is a verb.
But we often treat it as an adjective.
But we often treat it as an adjective. It just describes your thought process. But it's a verb because in order to actually say that I have faith, I've actually done something.
Yes.
It's a verb. It's an action word. And we did a whole bunch of history, y'all. That was like the whole thing.
You said, though, that even though you started with Hebrews, when it talked about the Hebrews referenced the elders and what they do. So the example of faith was given to us from the Torah. So it was in the red, but it took us back to the Torah
Exactly.
to see what it is.
What it is. So Hebrews 11 is in it's in the New Testament. But even it references all the way back to Abel, all the way back to the beginning, all the way back to the Torah to help us understand what faith is. We go back to the Torah to understand what faith is. Any other examples? Yes.
The science on why he created something out of nothing, we are not able to do so.
There you go. Yahweh created something out of nothing, but we are not able to do that. Everything we create comes from something that he created. Something that he created. Hallelujah. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Praise the Most High. Lori. And then Jesse.
Awesome. So I was thinking about the word, I guess, I don't know, part of speech. We said, when we look at faith as an adjective, I think we look at it as an active. Just a thing. It's a thing to have. It's something. It's a chair.
Yeah, that's too.
It's a car. It's a, doesn't really mean anything.
Right. Do you have faith?
Right. There is no.
You got some faith?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely a good way to look at it. So you should have did the language arts stuff. Who else? Miss J, sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. It was a great teaching.
Praise God.
Great teaching. So good until you started talking about it. This Bible was in my bag. This is my church Bible. But it took me back. And I had to, because you said something, I was like, oh my goodness. So I had to go pull it out. You know how you be highlighting this for years ago. But just understanding what it is. You hear that so much. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. But you're right with us treating it as an adjective because for so many years or for so long, yeah, it's like you just believe, that's it. But it's like, how does that and that probably would explain why a lot of stuff didn't ever work. How many people sitting in the dark right now, they ain't pay their light bill because they believe that God was going to do it. You know, I mean, I've seen stuff. People stop doing stuff and it's like, why did you do that like that? Well, the pastor just said believe. What? You know, it's like, okay. But even in this Bible, because I've heard, you have to be careful with commentaries because, like but in this particular Bible, and again, this is one I got being in the church, but it's an old Bible, and I can remember because it has different definitions and things, like in the under the different readings, but it has the word believe. And it said that the Hebrew word translated believe is from a root meaning to establish or confirm what you said. Even years ago, reading this, and it said, it talks about Abraham and how he believed in the Lord, and it means that the person made a decision to treat God's word as certain and made a commitment to do what he wants. But I remember either maybe I did a teaching or something, and it still really didn't make sense. But I understand, establish, confirm, but we know we establish, but how, if I'm establishing my relationship, then how do I confirm that? And of course it's through my obedience, but even the commentary right here talks about Abraham and how it was accounted to him for righteousness, but it says in Old Testament times people were saved by their good deeds rather than by, no. Some have thought that in Old Testament times, people were saved by their good deeds rather than by faith. But this idea is mistaken. Oh, commentaries be so jacked up. Because it's like, Abram was not saved because of righteous living or obedience, but by believing in God, and so doing declared righteous by him. The only valid work is the work of faith. Oh my goodness, I have this highlight. Now that's what used to mess me up. Because I'm reading this and I'm like, I don't understand. Okay, so then what did he do? And so for so many years, like teaching, and it's crazy because you're in a position where you're teaching and you understand, but then you don't understand, but this doesn't make sense. Like it's okay. I've since understood better, now being in the truth, thinking back on that, but it's just, and then it references like John, with John 6:28, then they said to him, what shall we do that we may work the works of God? Jesus answered and said to them, this is the work of God, that you believe in him who was sent. And so when you think about that, I think about the fact that people would come because of working the altar and working behind the woman that prayed, and it's like, oh, you want to be saved? Okay, well, just believe. Okay, great, they do that. And then you go into a praise because the angels are rejoicing, and that was it. But then you would see so many people come, and then you would never see them again. Or you would see them, and then you would see them again, but nothing was changing because nobody was teaching obedience. So understanding all of that as far as going back to keeping his commands, his laws, his statutes, the things he's told us to do, and that's what shows our faith. I don't like this. Your teaching was just so good because even though it's right there and it makes so much sense, like you just put it out. It's like, man, I don't even when James talks about your work, show me your faith.
Right.
Yeah, man. Thou hast faith, and I have work. Show me thy faith apart from thy works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So, right, it's not. Yeah, you can say my works don't make me righteous, but my works is what shows you that I am. So it's so crazy because you don't hear any of that. It's just believe. Just believe. That's all. Just have faith and believe. So it's almost like the magic, it becomes magic or sorcery or spooky or something. Just believe. That's all. Oh, but never change anything about your behavior. Right. Never change anything that you do. But that's in fact what all of the examples in Hebrew, that's what in Hebrews, the elders, you look at what they did and it's like, why doesn't that just click?
Right. And that's
How do you just tell this person to
the
believe?
Hebrews example.
Right, and this is the example that's Shaul talking, correct? They're your favorite, well maybe, your favorite person or one of your favorite, but he's giving those examples of the elders, but when you look at what the elders did, all of it ties back to obedience. So, why wouldn't, it's almost like you're saying that God gave his son to be crucified and to go through all that he went through just so you could walk around and do what you want to do? It would, I mean, just so you could do whatever.
And say you believe. Just say it.
Say you believe, because if you believe, like I know my children believe me because they do what I tell them to do. Or you clearly didn't believe I was going to beat your behind.
You
That's
didn't
not
believe
the reason why
me.
you did.
Show ya.
Because you didn't believe I was going to.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
You ain't
You can't, I can't tell you all day long that I believe that chair will hold my weight, and I never actually am brave enough to sit in it. Then I don't believe it. I'm just saying I believe it.
If you don't have faith, you don't, because without faith it's impossible to please him. And I used to hear that so much. That's how you please him. With faith. Okay, but what is it? And you're right. They're not teaching it as they should, as a verb. They're teaching it as an adjective.
Yeah.
It's going to be a whole lot of messed up people. And it's going to be a whole lot of people with blood on their hands. Because of how things are being taught. It's just, I thank you, I appreciate it. You just brought something full circle for me. And when I say years, I mean, because I was looking back at these notes that I've written in the Bible, and I was like, whoa, okay. It makes sense. Gosh, thank you. Good teaching. I hope what I said, man, it just makes sense. Like,
Praise God.
yeah.
So I'm gonna answer this question in the group meet, and then I'll come to Alan. So the question in the group meet says, is it the belief that leads to the action? Does belief and action go hand in hand, or is it only the action? So that's a great question. So first of all, it's the belief that produces the action. Belief produces the action. So in other words, I'm going to use my same example. I can say I believe, but until I prove that I believe, the question still is, do I actually believe? The action is what me sitting in that chair would say, absolutely I believe. Look, I just sat in the chair. That action now solidifies to me, to you, to Yahweh, that I actually believe. Because I'm not just saying it. And that's why, and I probably could have put more emphasis on this, but that's why when you go to even the titling of what I said, what the subtitle was, action over fashion. Because oftentimes we want to look the part. I look like I believe. I look like I like you. I look like I am rich. I look like I'm happy. I look. But it's really in the action. Do I act like I love you? Do I act like I'm rich? Do I do the things that rich people do? Because if the answer to that is no, then I'm lip service. That's not belief. So to the question, that's not belief. Because I can't just say I believe. That doesn't prove that I believe. And what does our working definition say? We use Hebrews 11:1. For faith is the substance of things hoped for. The substance of things. Substance is something, it's a thing. It's substance. And so it's saying, this is something I hope for. So this is Sarah and Abraham coming together. That's the substance. They hope for a child. the evidence of that which is not seen. This child is not seen, but the evidence is in the fact that we're going to come together. The evidence is Noah building the ark when there's not a drop of rain.
Yeah.
It's the action. It's not in me saying, I believe. There is no credence to simply saying something. Is it belief or... Okay, so hopefully, Catherine, does that help? Hopefully that helps. So, yeah. So belief and action go hand in hand. So is belief also a verb too? Yeah, belief is the verb. Belief, faith. It is synonyms. Belief, faith, trust, confirming, solidifying. All of these definitions that we gave, that is what faith is. That's what belief is. And that's why it leads to obedience. The action is obedience. The action is obedience. Perfectly said. So, Alan and then Ms. Cece.
I was thinking about you talking about like the potential energy versus kinetic energy. Right? The first thing I started thinking about was, we often hear the popular, phrase in our society, knowledge is power. And for years, I've been telling people knowledge is only potential power. But you can have a head full of knowledge, and you can't put that in practical application and make it work for you. What worth is it? Okay, so taking that worldly concept and converting to more than the spiritual context of what we're talking about.
Right.
You can sit here and believe all day long.
Yep.
What I'm saying is that you're not doing anything like going out here teaching people the truth about, Father's word. Showing them in your actions through, how you are living and everything. As an example, you're not just talking about it, but they actually see you, because you actually hear some people, but people who are really taking this walk seriously. You'll hear people don't even know you from a box of painting and say as soon as you walk into a room, because I knew it was something different about you. There was something about you. You walk in this room, you shifted the atmosphere, or you got a light you brought up in here. You know what I mean? I've heard people say that sometimes. People get a little high from time to time. Now, I say I get the thanks. We got to get nothing but the thanks to y'all, but it ain't nothing for him. But it's one of those things we have to realize that, in order for the progression of his kingdom to happen while we're within the earth realm, we have to demonstrate the action, because, and like I said, I've been guilty of that myself. Sometimes, you sit here and believe, but you got to, put some action on it. Make it happen. Yeah.
I'm doing it. Gotta do it.
Praise y'all for this teaching, And what I think about is our folks, and maybe not just our folks, but people that are still enslaved. Because they don't know, you need to check the voice that's speaking to you.
Yeah.
Check that voice, because Lady J said something about, when we were in church, the minister, you're the machine never fall for the okie doke. But, if the minister say something, I don't worry about your light bill or whatever, you ain't got enough to pay the bill, go ahead and pay your time or whatever. People fall for that stuff, and lights are out because they believe that English, and I can say I was probably there, my lights maybe didn't get cut off. But we believe what they say, but don't know what Yahweh says, Don't know which voice to follow. So I just praise y'all for this, and we just wish we could get it out to our brothers, Stop listening to these folks. They will tell you anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I was leaving. I was gonna say, even to take that a step further, and let's bring it into this walk. Faith without works. And so I think that we tend to be guilty of finding out who we are and grabbing onto that bloodline and then thinking that it stops right there. But it definitely takes more than just that. You have to walk in obedience and you have to, the actions, and I say it because, and then I ain't calling nobody out. First of all, I am grateful that people are awakened and know who they are. That in and of itself is enough to rejoice. But then people are, social media, it's like, okay, now a lot of people can see this and get excited and I'm posting, correct, but don't do that and not do the work of learning what this covenant is and what it looks like. Because to know your identity is just the beginning. That's just the revelation. But the Shabbat and all of his commands are that's how you know who we're connected to. The Shabbat is our wedding, it's like our wedding ring. It's a covenant that we make with the Most High. So even as you were teaching that is something that I thought about. Because everybody want to be a part. Everybody,
And
but
it's not
you
fashion.
have to do the action that goes along with it.
Yeah. Fashion versus action, boy, they didn't trade it in one thing for the next. Okay, so over here is you got to have that 3-piece suit, that hat, and this and that, and you look the part. Everybody got to have it, the part, look the part. Well, you come over here, it's like, yeah, I got my seats down here, I got this, I got that, I got my French on it, I got my. Okay. Full of dead man. Lord.
I'm fully aware this is gonna sound crazy, but which one came first, the chicken or the egg? So which came first, the verb or the noun? To believe or believe?
See? You do what Yahweh said do, and then everything else comes after.
That would be to believe, if you're doing something, so verb. So I guess what my brain is getting at is you cannot have the noun without the verb. So you cannot have belief without believing. Without doing the believing, I'll say.
Doing the believing.
Yeah.
That's doing the believing.
Yeah.
That's,
The overall.
that might be a better way of saying, do you believe? No. Are you doing belief? Like, are you doing belief? Because now it helps to go ahead and correct it and get out of this mindset of, oh yeah, I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just a thing.
There's something that pastor of the church I play at says, and it's of course he don't say Yeshua. I'm saying Yeshua wants to be not just your savior, but your master. And I'm like, yeah, you hear me, see me, and still that ain't clicking. Because master means he can tell you whatever, and you do it. Regardless of whether somebody else is doing it or whether you like it or not. Your savior is just like, oh, well, I saved you, you saved. I don't think those things are separated. I think he doesn't save you if you don't accept him and believe. And again, you have to do believe. Now, that doing might come with understanding, and so, but people ain't even trying to understand. There are some people that don't try to understand.
So I enjoyed the teaching. It was very, very, very thought-provoking. I've been back and forth with my hand up and down. Because I think the question you read from the group kind of hit where my head was at. And I think maybe what Lori just said kind of hit where my head was at. But I guess what I'll go to, and I'm not expecting an answer right now because it's probably a different thought process, but it's where the teaching is leading. So we've been talking a lot about balance on the prayer calls, right? And so Yeshua says, without my spirit, you're not mine, without my spirit, right? And so I'm thinking about the obedience to the letter of the law without his spirit. Like the question you read from Ruthie, and that was my thinking. Can you be obedient without belief? Like you can't be obedient. It's weird, because I was just about to say it the exact same way, right? You have to believe in order to be obedient. But can you be obedient without believing? Like, can you do what's right just because you know it's right to do, but not that it's right to do? Because that's what you was, yeah, because it's a different thought. It doesn't go somewhere else, but this is where the teaching has taken me. Now, my head is like, because you can do what you know to do right.
Yeah.
And not, I guess children would be a good example.
Yeah.
We raise our children in this walk.
Right.
They're keeping the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Because I said so.
Right.
I mean, I don't even have to say because I said so. At this age, they just know this is what we do.
Right.
Oh, it's Shabbat. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Now, about this age, I'm sure you start to think like, do I really have to do this? This is what this about. I can't wait till I grow up. Now, when you grow up, you might be like scared. Well, I'm kind of scared not to go because I done got all of this knowledge. Like Alan was talking about, you done got your head filled with all this stuff, so you know it's right. So I'm gonna do it, but do I really believe that? And is there any impact? Is there any effect?
So I think that goes to something that David said. He says, if it were just a sacrifice, then I get it.
Right.
But it's the broken contrite heart that you won't despise. And it goes to the maturing process. So I think you look at, I think it was Noah that it spoke of, who said he feared.
Yeah.
And then go to when Yahweh brought the children of Israel out of Mizraim. And he says, I did all of this so that my fear goes before you, to cause you to hear and obey. So it's a maturing process that gets us from simply obedience out of fear to obedience because you understand the importance of it. So to use your example of growing up, there are plenty of things that I remember that my parents either wouldn't let me do or made me do, and then they didn't quite explain it, and when I got older, they explained it, and I still didn't like it. But then, when it became my choice, I was like, oh, now I get it. Like, why would I want to put myself in this harm? Because I didn't know that that's what I was doing. By doing this thing, I'm putting myself in harm's way. By eating this shellfish, I'm putting myself, and I'm using a real example. By eating this shellfish, I'm putting myself in harm's way. Do I need to understand the fullness of that just to obey, to your point? No. And the truth is, that's where it should start. Because when he said, don't eat, what was set in their mind? Don't eat. What caused the problem? When Hasatan added in the mix, why not to eat?
Right.
That's what caused the problem. If they never questioned why not to eat, because that was the thing. It was like, oh, well, you won't surely die, but what he knows is you'll be like him, knowing both good and evil. And it's like, oh, now all of a sudden it looks good. It looks acceptable because I've entertained this idea of I need to understand why I don't eat it. So, yes, you can have obedience, and that's just, I believe you're going to whoop my behind, or I believe I'm going to get in trouble, or I believe that I just got to do what Mama said do.
So
but that's going to grow.
So it's not so much disbelief, it's just
Yeah.
a heart.
It's a maturing process. It's a maturing process, and we all have to go through that. But that first decision has to be about belief. That's why everything starts there. Belief. Do you believe? Like, do you believe me? Do you trust me? If the answer to that is yes, then what I'm about to tell you, just do it. Because the trust and belief is the bridge to your understanding.
Hallelujah.
It's the bridge.
Yes.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll get to the point where you understand. How long you been keeping the Shabbat?
Is that a question for real?
That's a real
Oh,
question.
consistently?
Yes.
I guess I'm going into, I guess I'm going 2020, 21. Yeah, I'm going into 2 years.
2
2
years.
years, yeah.
When you first started, just now, 2 years, right now you're understanding. Then you're understanding. Is it the same?
No. It's grown. And he,
Did it start out as I need to be doing the Shabbat?
it started out as yes, under realizing that, oh my goodness, I need to be. And even that was like 2014, but I've been doing it consistent. Okay. Okay.
That's what
Oh, okay.
happens.
Oh, and now 2 years, the last 2 years consistently, but understanding the truth then.
So what I did a horrible job of, y'all, I'm admitting this because I left out something so important. And the reason I put it in the title of the message, I never connected, which was walking by faith. That's a walk. You started here,
Yeah,
and you kept walking,
yeah.
and eventually it's like, oh, it's nice in here. Oh, it's real now. Oh, it's beautiful. But at the beginning, it's just like, but in order to take the first step in, it takes belief. And that belief has nothing to do with how beautiful it is on the inside and whether you understand that or not.
Right.
Just believe, obey, trust, and that will get you to the point of understanding. And when you get to that point of understanding, you can't take it. Can't be taken. Now you're going to guard. Now you're going to guard. I'm sorry. I know I had Gilda. And let me make sure. Then Lori. And then Jesse. Let me make sure, Rosie, we're good. You have one too?
Yes, I'm very-
What you want, baby? What you want besides a bite of that
I
apple?
don't know if she's still used
You good?
Yes, I'm good. I was
Okay.
just saying, Catherine had asked in the group what was Lori's question again, but I don't know if she's got clarity. I just wanted you to know she asked. But yes, I'm good.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Your question about
I'm addressing Rosie what she said. Can you actually be obedient and not believe? So when we first went to Sonoma, and I don't know if you remember this gentleman, his name was Bob, Brother Bob, and he was a white gentleman. And they had the deepest midrash I've ever heard because he said he did not believe that you had to keep the law, but he did it because he loved Yahweh. So he didn't believe that because, and I don't know if that was mixed in with First Day Church or not, but he was saying he didn't think since, the New Testament was there, that we really had to follow or be obedient, but that it was a choice. And he didn't believe that we had to still keep the law, but he did it because he loved Yahweh. And I had never heard, so he was obedient, but what he truly believed, I don't think he had the complete and total belief that we were ordered by him to keep it, because supposedly, I'm guessing that we're in the time of grace instead of the law. We don't have to keep the law, but he was being obedient by keeping it. It was deep to me, and I can remember Brother Bruce and Brother G trying to explain to him, no, we still commanded to keep the law, and he was like, no, we're not. We don't have to do it, but we should do it because we love him. I will never forget that. So yeah, he was obedient, but I don't know that he had the actual belief that you have to keep the law. You don't have to, but he said.
So he don't, so he, by the definition, he don't believe what he believes.
Well,
Because if he doing the law, his doing, James, don't say nothing, just do. What are you doing? Oh, you're in the ground with roots. You're a tree. You don't got to tell me a tree is a tree. When's the last time a tree told y'all it was a tree?
right.
So if you keeping the Torah, if you keeping the law, you keeping the Torah, and you don't tell me that, oh, but I don't believe you got to do it, but you're doing it.
Right.
So just keep doing it. Stop talking.
He was serious about that thing. He was like, no, you don't. You don't have to keep it.
He is very
He
likable,
was,
very
he
generous,
was a
very
good
happy.
dude, but he was funny, and that made me think about, that was my example of, well, I guess you can be obedient and know truly believe, because he said for sure, you didn't have to keep that Torah, you did not, but you should because you put them out with it. I was like, okay. That was funny.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was.
Yes.
I remember Gilda.
Yeah, you
Was it Glory? And then just, yeah.
So the problem comes in when we ask why.
Why? What?
Why anything? I mean, look, according to the scripture, okay, why do we eat clean?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Don't ask why, just ask. So, I guess I'm asking, should we not ask why?
I don't think the issue is with wanting to know why. The issue is with not trusting Yahweh
Yeah.
that He will reveal why when it's appropriate. I go back to children. Sometimes children ask us why questions, and our answer is what, parents? Exactly. But how often is that really the true answer to that question? It's almost never the real answer. It's just that you can't quite handle the real answer yet. So, we'll get there. And I think that's what it is. We just have to trust Yahweh that we haven't gotten there yet. And so we start out by just simply being obedient. The simple aspect of just being obedient. You know what? He said, don't eat of that tree. And there are some things that if we don't know, let's say, listen, y'all, who prays this prayer? I know I'm not the only one. Who gives this thanksgiving to the Most High? Who blesses the Yah of heaven? Because He protected you from both dangers, seen and unseen. Do y'all really want to know all of the unseen that He's protected you?
No, thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
No, because we messed up.
Right.
If I didn't pay for this, mic I'd drop it.
All that.
We do not want to know all the unseen that He's protected us from. But to Jack Nicholson's point, you then question the method under which He provides the protection. A few good men, if y'all want to see.
Okay.
That ain't the Torah.
I want to know the truth.
What's up?
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Right.
We know that.
That's the line. That's what comes next.
Yeah.
Yes, I ordered the code red.
Yeah.
And you gotta go back and listen to that monologue. It's actually pretty powerful. I mean, in context, you gotta understand, we ain't talking about ordering code reds on people. What he's saying is, I provide protection, and then you come and question the method by which I provide it. Now, obviously that ain't right, but I'm saying to Yahweh, we can't question when He says, you don't need to know the answer to that right now. what did he say in Revelation after they got to what was it? Was it the third seal? Was it the third seal? Am I remembering that right? What did he tell them? Might have been the fourth. He said, close it. Don't write what you see.
No,
Yeah.
Which one?
that wasn't the
I got it written in the book. He says, seal it up. What you see now, don't even write it. No, it's in Revelation. He said, don't even write it. And as a matter of fact, it's when he told him to swallow the book. That's when it happened. He told him to swallow the scroll. And he took him to a place and he showed him stuff that we still don't know what he saw. Because he said, don't tell him.
So it's not why, but just your obedience being contingent upon the why.
Yeah. Yeah. When obedience is contingent upon the why, then the truth is you don't really believe. Because if I tell you that, see all these movie examples coming to my head. If I tell you I'm really the king or the heir to the throne of Zamunda, now I got to wonder if that's why you want to marry me. Oh, so you want to be obedient to me because I told you that this is going to be the case. Okay. But what about before, when you didn't know? Noah? Didn't matter. Didn't matter. Over 100 years, it did not matter to Noah that he did not know that Yahweh was going to deliver him and his family. The man didn't even want to have kids because he didn't know the plan of the Most High. But what he knew is do what Yahweh said do. He said go tell people to get your life together. Just did it. Didn't understand it. But then all of a sudden Yahweh hit him with build an ark. What's that? A big old boat with a whole bunch of people, 8 people and a whole crap ton of animals gonna be. Okay. Okay, well how do I build it? Get some gopher wood, get some tar. Oh, okay. Where do I build it? Where the water at? Hey, don't worry about that, it's gonna be plenty.
That's kind of way.
Is this thing's gonna float? You'll see. I mean, he just did it. That's the whole point. And so if he got too far into the why, does that make a distinction in your decision? Because I think that's where it comes in. If it's going to change your decision, there lies a problem. Then you might not be mature enough to handle the information yet. Because you're going to say, well, I ain't going to do that because that ain't no big deal to me. Or, I don't care. Or, whatever it is. But it's like, well, wait a minute. If you would have received this information a little further down the road, maybe you would have taken it differently. The maturing process. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Did you go already?
No.
It was Lori then you.
Yes.
Right now.
So, yeah.
But I don't know. I think I just kind of got hit with the becoming like Elohim. So knowing the why is almost, I guess, akin to becoming like Elohim. And he doesn't.
Yeah.
Does he want us to be like him or no?
Yeah. We can't handle that though. We couldn't handle knowing both good and evil. We couldn't
We
handle
can't
it.
handle not knowing good and evil though.
Yeah, but well, apparently not. But the command was to not touch it because that was the problem. We could now not distinguish between the two. So right now today, we do things that are detrimental to ourselves because we can't distinguish well enough between good and evil. Right now today.
I'm sorry, but isn't having more information equipping you to make better decisions?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I can tell you that from my profession. Absolutely not. Let somebody get on the internet, learn everything out there about all of this and all of that, and I'm looking at them like, you about to kill yourself. You're gonna go broke.
Makes my job hard.
I guarantee you're gonna go broke. Promise you're gonna lose all your money.
Kills me.
Because guess what? You don't know how to decipher the good information from the bad information. And it all runs together. So you do a whole lot of bad stuff mixed in with a few good things and you end up on the ground. You can't handle it. So Yahweh limits so that you can come out. Again, it's the guardrails. It's, hey, you know, I'll help you get to where you need to go. Let me guide you along. Otherwise, you're going to fall off the side of the cliff. Do you remember what you...
No, it was in regards to whatever we were talking about at that moment when Rosie, she said, can you what? You and not the me. No, when you asked me about, you were talking about walking in faith.
Yeah, walking.
Oh, walking it out, man.
Yeah, walking by faith.
Walking by faith.
Yeah.
So from point A to point Z, and not knowing what Z is, but starting at A and just walking by faith.
Getting the B and C and D.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're coming into the truth and knowing when I first woke up, or knowing the encounter that I had with the Most High, it's like, oh my, the aha moment, like, oh, you know, and then the years that passed until today, 2022. I can remember one time, my husband at the time and I were having a conversation as it related to the church that we were pastoring, and his question was, so do you think that we'll go to hell? Because his thing was always going to hell, blah, 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 for not keeping the Sabbath, or not going, he said, going to church on Saturday is what he said. And at the time, still being new and knowing enough to know that we were not headed in the right direction, but I really didn't know the answer to that question. But that's what I was thinking about that, because I remember telling him, I was like, I don't know that would send me to hell, but I just know that that's what the Most High commanded us to do. And that's all I know. Right. You know, from what I know, that's what I'm reading. So for him, because he is the type of person he is, it's gotta, and I'm like, yo, well, I can't explain it to you like that at this moment, but because I am, and I'm gonna dig and find it. I could today, but it's like probably 2019. I was like, I don't know, but I just know that it says to remember the Sabbath and set it apart, and that is the Sabbath. So, people I think a lot of times can become afraid because they don't know the end. And I think for him that was one of the things, because now you have this church full of people, so you want me to go tell them that we should be. Yeah, that's what I want you to tell them. Now, I don't know how you gonna tell them. I have to go pray and ask him to show you, but essentially, yeah, that's what you need to tell them. Because that's what that's what he's telling us to do. So I guess it was just a fear of, some people will receive it, and a lot of them won't. But now it's about obedience, and that was my, I just thought about that because, I didn't know. So even me continuing to walk it out from that day to now, you grow and you see more and more. And even some of the whys, as you walk it out and grow, you don't even have to ask because it gets answered. It's like, oh.
And that's my point.
Oh, that's why.
There's questions you ain't even have to ask.
That's right.
Like you just, and then y'all remember this phrase? I used to say it a lot more, but every now and then I bring it out. All the Torah we have prepares us for all the Torah we don't have, but will need. Like, it's preparing, it's shaping your mindset, it's shaping your thought process, it's shaping how you think, how you look at things, how you react to things. It is programming you. Torah is programming us. It's wonderful because because we're with his program. You're going to have somebody's thought process. You're going to have somebody's influence and somebody's thought process. It should be that of the Most High. And if it is his thoughts that you begin to think like, if it is his mindset that you begin to have, what do we see in the New Testament? It says, let this mind be in you. Because that's what it is. There's a transition of me not thinking my own natural thought. Why? Because that's mixed in. This carnal mind is mixed in with things. I'm getting thoughts that I shouldn't have and so on and so forth. Versus my thoughts lining up with his. And so now he's preparing me. So when I see things that I maybe have not seen before, I know how to react to it. I know how to deal with it. I know how to think about it. That's why in certain things, certain professions, let's say in sports and athletics, almost any type of sport, you learn muscle memory. And why do you learn muscle memory? Because you can react without thinking. So if I see your body turn like this, it's automatic in me to turn like this. And in football, they teach them how to fall. Why? You fall wrong, you break something every time. You don't know how to take a hit. You don't know how to give a hit. It's not that they're going to teach you every time. Okay, all right, so if his hand is precisely right here, then yours is precisely right here. Yours is right here. No, it's a muscle memory. It's you're doing these exercises. Ephraim, when's the last time y'all played football? And what do you call the things with the lineman you push? Yeah. When's the last time you played a football game and there was a sled on the football field? Never. You've never played a football game with a sled on the football field. But you practice with one. What does it create? Muscle memory. So now you know how to react. It's like, all right, nope, see, you got to do this or you got to do that. Why? Because you're learning muscle memory. I'm sorry, y'all. Now I'm rambling. Gilda, yeah, it was out. Okay.
When you talk about we come out teaching not being the hand of the truth and like we ask the wise. I've observed something over the years, and a lot of times in very small, minute ways, Yahweh will let certain things get out into the world like this, on a natural knowledge level that man can receive, he can understand. Like we talk about, like we brought about, clean eating versus unclean eating, right? Well, there was a study that came out not too long ago. They were talking about pork, the effects of pork having on people. Now they're doing it in science right now, man's day, that they're linking that down to mental illness. Okay, so think about all these people who are pork lovers and like eating this stuff. So why we got to get this up or whatever else? And right there, and even before that, especially with our people. Okay, you see the evidence that look at people who consume that high blood pressure, constant headaches, sometimes heart attacks, sometimes strokes, all these other. He's giving you the evidence right there and there. Why you keep messing with this? Because you know this is what it's going to do to you.
Right.
So now it took the other folks in the scientific community to put like a little article that said, yeah, basically you can't continue to consume this swine, it's going to run you crazy. It's going to do something in your head. And the other thing that I often say too is that when you hear people say, I had a gut feeling about this or a gut feeling about that, well, your gut is really like your second brain. Okay? If it is jacked up or messed up, believe it or not, you actually have nothing to do with your brain up here and your thinking. Okay? So that led me to believe one of the reasons, this is just my belief, because I don't know that I'm putting this together like, okay, one of the reasons I strongly feel Yahweh tells us for clean eating, so some clean things will go in here, that environment in our gut will be right, that it will translate to being able to have sound thinking of people. Because if you feed this garbage, okay, well, maybe your thought process is going to be garbage. Garbage out. Exactly.